So hey everyone, hi. Hope everybody is doing good. We are back again. So this time I think we have some more exciting topics which we will be brainstorming over. Hope you like it. Hope you liked last episode also. Do check it out on our channel, right? And do give feedback, right? What I would like, I would just hand off to Sahil, and like he can talk about like what we are going to discuss today. It's very exciting topic, but we would like to know everybody's opinion also on it. So we'll just go get started, and I would just request Sahil to yeah, um, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Vash. So hello everyone. So today we'll be discussing about AI and the kind of developments that we are doing in AI. So we all are aware that the AI boom has been there for a while, and AI is not just it's not just a product, but like people are also utilizing it now in their day-to-day life. So like a lot of innovation has been happened in terms of AI, and so today we will see where India stands in this AI revolution, what's being built, the opportunities and the challenges ahead. So yes, let's start with this. What does India's AI landscape look like to you, and what kind of AI projects are being developed in the country?
Yeah. So that's an interesting point actually. And first of all, I'll just clarify, guys. Whatever we are going to discuss are like our own opinions, right? We are open to actually know everybody else's opinion also, and talk about it. But just to basically start with this topic, right? Which is, I think, as Indians, we have a lot of exposure to in general technology, right? AI has been one of those technologies which I think we have done like a very good adoption to. So we can see some of those some of reflections of those already happening. Like OpenAI basically launching a subsidized plan for India, right? And saying that okay, India is our second biggest consumer, right? And basically also in heavily being interested into developing their own data centers in India, right? Outside of US, and so a lot of things which are going on, collaborations and partnerships which are happening between Indian government, Indian private sector with Western companies. Even I think Reliance is partnered with Meta. Google is heavily invested into India. Google is developing some data centers in south in Kerala or something, Tamil Nadu, I think. So a lot of things are happening just because we Indians are very eager to actually adopt to technology, and which is a great thing, right? What the reason why we highlighted this point is uh, it's okay, we are very good consumer of this new technology which is coming up, right, in last 1 or 2 years, but and now it is getting started to actually getting into our lives, daily lives, right? So what are we doing to build basically, right? So we are consumer, but how can we be producers, right? And where are we lacking, right? And what are we doing good also, right? So that is something which we are going to highlight and talk about primarily. So I think in last 2 years, there are a lot of enthusiasm in Indian tech space also about building in AI, or building with AI, right? And I think people are doing good in general. There are a couple of challenges which will be touch basing on and what can be improved to actually make it easier for people to innovate and build products, right? But just to answer Sahil's question, I think we are doing in couple of areas and couple of domains. We are building quite a bit and quite good products. We are building in legal, we are building in healthcare, we are building in accounting and basically financing and taxation. We are doing that. I think we are also doing a couple of things in conversational AI, a lot of text to speech and speech to speech translation which is happening in India. I think there is a lot of initiative at institute level or incubator level which I have observed, IIT Bombay, IIT Madras, which are heavily invested. Yesterday only I was reading there was a 800 crore funding which I think India AI or Indian government is basically going to give Bharat Gen, which is basically a incubator cell from IIT Bombay, or a team from IIT Bombay. I think they definitely deserve it, right? But the thing is so a lot of these things are happening in general at consumer level. I think there are a lot of products which are coming up. I think there are a lot of startups which are already set up now using AI quite extensively. So but considering that and like comparing that to whatever is happening globally also, like I think we still are very very far, right? Like so there is a lot of gap in we are still so personally what I feel is there is a huge gap in general about like model inferencing, right? Like model providers and basically forget about like foundation model development, right? Like so that is a totally different like domain and like requires a different like level of expertise and basically like investment and everything, right? Like an effort, everything. But just even inferencing, right? Like right, so right now what is happening is everybody is just building on top of like model APIs which are like either available via like larger inference providers, right? Like so not just about private inference providers which are there, like okay, OpenAI and like Claude and basically Anthropic and like Google and all these guys, but even like the open source model inference providers are like out of India, right? Like most of them. So like I have seen a lot of like people criticize about like okay, like this is just a wrapper which you are building and all that stuff. But see, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? Like so, if it is solving a problem, it is solving a problem, right? But the thing which I want to highlight is like India needs to develop like products like in space of like inferencing, which is model inferencing. Doesn't need to be like a foundation model or doesn't need to be a trillion token model inferencing, but even a simple like a decent size, mid size and like small size model, if somebody can provide like with reliable API like access, right? I think people will be happy to actually pay for it. The problem is like reliability. One of those things is like second problem is like not a lot of people are doing it, right? So India. So I think in next 6 months or 1 year, I think if we see some of those people, like some of these people coming up, I think that will be very helpful because like we will not be able to like keep on building like on top of the models which are like or even providers which are from outside India, right? We'll need to have our native people who are like doing it and like native companies who are doing it. That is one of those things. Like a lot of people are like very focused towards conversational AI. I think that is okay, but I still don't understand like okay what language it takes, text to text or text to speech, sorry, not text to text but text to speech and speech to speech translation will make a huge difference in India. I think we have done that in past also in some fashion in manual work, in manual aspect, but still it hasn't been very scalable. So I don't see like that to be like a very big use case for India, but I am seeing a lot of people like even Sarvam AI and like Krutrim AI and everybody is just trying to solve language, which is great, but not everybody should just do that, right? So big companies like these, like which have a very good backing, right, like from government and like have a good bank balance, I think they should probably just work on more like more problems which are like going to solve a lot of big problems for people, right? Like this text speech to speech translation and like all that stuff is already being done by a lot of Indian startups also. So that is one of those one of my opinions. But yeah, like I'll probably take a pause and like would like to know your opinion also on this.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's really a great start for India. Definitely, like infrastructure wise, we lack quite a lot still. But I think the government is taking quite a good initiative. We are developing semiconductor plants as well. Like around 6 to 7 semiconductor plants we are developing, and like one of them is recently been inaugurated last month. So like and we also have that, as you mentioned, we have that India AI platform, like which basically provides you with funding as well. Even they have AI Kosh where you can get the data sets also. If you are developing any model or something, then you will need those data sets, so you can utilize that from there. So we are like as a country, we are definitely developing. There are quite a few startups as well that we see. For example, Sarvam AI is there, which has been there in like audio development and translation. And we also have Krutrim LLM model. We also have Bhashini as well, which is developed by Government of India, which is for translation purposes and localization. So definitely, like when we compare ourselves with other countries like China or it is USA, so like we are still far behind, right, from them. Like we don't have that kind of companies, right, which are developing that level of software right?
Yeah.
Which US and China has been developing. So for example, if you take an example of US, you have Google, right? You have ChatGPT, right? Developed by OpenAI. You have Cursor, right, for coding purposes. And there are lots and lot more. Windsurf is there, and there are many others. But when it comes to India, like we are not developing that kind of software. Like
Yeah.
the problem is definitely the infrastructure, as I mentioned, and there is also lack of education as well. For example, like in India, which I personally feel is that people are not that interested in actually learning new things, right, or doing something different apart from their day-to-day job. Like most of the people are like interested in doing their jobs only, and skill set wise also, like people don't want to improve, right? So for example, if you see, right, the things which the tools and technologies that you are developing using few years back are irrelevant today, right?
Yeah.
So lot of AI tools and technologies are actually replacing them. So as a software developer, as a person, like you definitely have to upskill yourself
Yeah.
in terms of AI, right? And
Yeah.
I think like the traditional education that we are getting in schools and colleges, and the industry that expects that kind of knowledge is completely different, right? So
Yeah.
there is definitely a knowledge gap that we are having.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of things are improving, a lot of things are getting better, but definitely it will take some more years, actually maybe 5 years, 10 years to actually, or maybe even more, depending upon the kind of efforts that as a country we put in, like government wise also, and like in personal level also, individually how we basically tackle that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's basically what I feel.
Yeah. No,
And one thing, like it's better late than never. So at least we are doing something, right? We are taking steps and we are moving forward. So that's a good thing to see.
So like perfectly valid points here, like, and I think it's difficult to actually compare India with West or China, right? Like, so what happens is, like, West is a very mature country in general, right? Like, so most of the countries, and like West is mostly like US, right? Like in US or Europe, like you can consider, but most of these countries are like quite mature in terms of like their technology and like their bureaucracy and everything, right? Like, so also they don't have that level of demographic challenges also which are there in India. Same goes to China is a very I would say streamlined country, right? Like, so just because of the governance, which the type of governance which they have, again, nothing against any kind of governance, like whatever their country is, like what they want to do, they want to do. So that's a totally different like discussion. But the point is, like so it's very difficult to actually compare India with these countries, right? Because like the demographics is like quite different, right? Like the type of governance is very different, right? Like, and India has so many different type of like mindsets which are there, right? All over the country. So basically it basically becomes like a, so you have to take everybody together and like just basically move, right? Like, so but the good part is, like, since our population is so large, right? Like, and people are like eager to actually like adapt, right? Like to things, and people are like not okay, we will not like adopt this technology at all, right? Even if like there is a as you said, right? Like, so AI, since AI was like in a state, and like everything was like okay, like it is going to replace people, but still people didn't like stop basically like adopting it, right? Like, so which is the good part about India, right? Like, so your point is right that there is a lot of initiative which is going on, but at the end, as we were discussing some other day also, right, is like at the end it comes down to distribution, right? Like, so if all the compute or all the infrastructure is going to be only available to like B2B players, right, innovation will not come over the time, right? So one point which you shared, which is like okay, people are not interested in India. I think people are, but the thing is like they don't know how to, right? Like, so the bigger problem is this, right? Like, so the point which I was sharing about inference also, right? Like, so that is one of those steps which I think we can take, right? Like towards okay, right now just host like maybe 10 small models, right, which is very small, right? Like, and just give the people capability to maybe fine tune over their data set over the time, right? Like, so even if you give this kind of capability to like 2-3 people, 4 people startup, right, that becomes like very powerful for people, right? That's when people start to understand that okay, I can get this kind of service from somewhere, and then basically I can build on top of it, right? So at least like that because so right now what happens is there is not even a first step, right? So unless until you don't build those first steps, second steps, right? Like we'll never be able to get to the like 10th step, right? Like so the problem is that I think we are trying to build something which is like going to work for 10th step, but we are not building the first and second steps which are there, right? So I don't know whether that analogy makes sense, but the point is like we need to solve these problems which are fundamental, which is okay, like why can't we just solve like inference? Doesn't matter, okay. We have time and time observed that okay, we will not be able to replace ChatGPT with something which is built in India, a chat model in India, right? Like so Krutrim has tried that 2 times, right? Like didn't work. Sarvam had tried that, didn't work, right? The reason is because like it's not because these are like bad products, okay. The reason is because like people have already migrated to ChatGPT, right, or Google Gemini or something like that, right? And like it's their daily driver now, right? Like so it's very difficult. Even forget about like Indian companies. Are there any US companies who are able to replace ChatGPT? No, right? Like so even in US, the people who are building from Silicon Valley, right, like or like from California, or like even like DC area, or like even Europe, right, like are they able to like solve ChatGPT or like Claude or like Anthropic's Claude or like Google Gemini? People are not able to like now replace them because now they have entered like people's life, right? And people are not ready to actually switch, right? Because they have found a soft like sweet spot already, right? Like so if we are trying to solve that in India, we are not going to solve that in the first place, right? Like so because they are already doing a very good job, you can't solve that, right? I'm not saying you should not try, right? But there is a huge gap in another spaces which are there, right? So as I said, right, inference API provider, right? Like so that is one of those like spaces which are like nobody is touching it, right? Because it's tough to solve. I understand that, right? But the thing is like it is required, right? So again, so these kinds of things, right? Like so if you just figure out that okay, like if chatbot is something which is not good, so if simple example is if Krutrim like knew that okay, like we launched that Krutrim ka pehla bot, and then they also tried I think Kriti, which is like an agentic chat and like chat model and chat system and everything. Even if you think that okay, both of them are not something which was adopted very well, that's fine, totally fine. But just give APIs, no? See, that will give you capability that okay, people see even in at global scale, right? If you see like the majority of AI adoption has been done by developers, right? Software engineers and developers, right? Because they are building on top of these models, right? Like so they are building products on top of these models, right? So if somebody does
Perplexity is the best example of that.
Perplexity is best example of that, right? Like so like a lot of people are building wrappers, right? And on top of these models, the thing is what I'm highlighting is this only, right? Like so why can't Krutrim just say that okay, we are not doing anything else, we're just going to give you like these 5-6 models which are like top of the like line models, right? And just with a reliable API inference, right? Like that okay, like even if you use these APIs in production, it is not going to fail, right? So if somebody does that in India, right, if we have 4 or 5 players like that, that becomes like a huge market for us, right? And once you have that for India, you can basically obviously like give it for like world, right? So like it's not like okay, you only build it for India, right? Like so you'll anyways be building it for like the whole world, right? The point is like so that kind of adoption, right? Even if there is a lot of initiative at hardware level, so now how does this compare to hardware level like initiatives which are taken to in government, right? Because that is happening in hardware also. A lot of data centers are getting built, right? But are those getting accessibility like for like people who are building like 3-4 people like startups? No, right now, right? Like so right now every deal which is going to happen for any kind of data center is basically being consumed or like consumed by like some kind of like big corporate, right? I'm not against it, right? But unless and until you don't take that like hardware capabilities, right, or resources till startups, innovations will not happen in India, right? Will not be able to build good robotics innovative labs or like companies. We are not going to build like good initiative like in like startups in AI, right? We're not going to be able to build it unless and until we don't take that distribution at like a very granular level, right? And I shared it with you, like it is not a job of government actually. It is private companies like job to actually take that to like smaller startups, right?
Right.
A simple example can be AWS, right? Like so AWS GCP, right? Like so AWS GCP are not owned by US government, right? Like those are private players, right?
Private players, yes.
But now if you see in India, right, everybody uses AWS or GCP, right? So like unless and until like basically there are not players around there, right? It's everybody in India actually hosts on AWS right now, right? Like so
Right.
most of
Even the
right,
startups as well.
all startups don't have any options itself, right? Like so
Right.
so that's that these kinds of like groups are there, right? And so like again and as I'll just wrap this point up, like but basically unless and until we don't solve these kinds of problems, like it will be very tough for us, like even in 5 years or 10 years also. Like I think we need to build these first or second steps, and rather than like trying to compete with all these like ChatGPT and everything. Again, kudos to like people who want to do it, right? But you are trying to solve a wrong problem, I would say. Yeah. It's already been cracked by somebody else. I'm not saying that okay, don't do it if somebody else has done it. You will get there. But the thing is, right now, if you solve inference with a very good like reliability track record on the API, people will automatically switch to your model. If
Right.
how did it's a common sense, right? Like how did OpenAI or like Anthropic became so good at like inferencing, right? Or giving outputs like or very good like good outputs without hallucinations, like handling agentic models and all that stuff, right? Like agentic capabilities in their model, because they were giving all these APIs to people. People were trying these, they were observing what kind of like use cases are there, and then they were basically adopting it. If your product has not been used by anybody, you will never know what kind of problems you are trying to solve, or you should solve in the first place, right? So like rather than like basically trying to compete with somebody, I would suggest like again I'm nobody to actually suggest, but the way I think of it is basically you'll have to figure out places where like okay, it's maybe not directly to the consumer, but like it's a part of the consumer journey, right? Like part of the consumer product in general, right? If you do that, like I think in India there are so many numerous use cases like and like case studies, right? In even like fast FMCGs and everything, which that is a different discussion. But like point is, people build very very small things, but since the scale is so large, right, they make money out of it, right? So India is like that.
Right.
Like population is so large, right? Like as compared to somebody like some other country like Canada or like Australia or something like that, right? Like where you have to like sell things at a premium or like at a considerable profit margin, right, to get basically to your targets, right? In India, like that is not the case. Like a very good example we spoke about was like Paytm, right? It's a very highly regulated market. It's a very competitive market, right? But still they are able to survive in it, right? They are able to make good margins out of it, right? Just because like of those small margins which are happening, and the count of multiple of like those transactions which are happening, they're able to make money, right? So very good example anybody can learn from is like Paytm actually in India. It's a very highly regulated market, like competitive market, but still they are able to make money out of it. It's hats off to them, like the way they have actually figured out the unit economics for them, and like the business model which they have over the years, they have figured it out like very well. So I think we can learn a lot from them actually. Even Zomato, Ola, these are like very good examples actually. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so one thing that you mentioned about is like providing inferences, right?
Yeah.
By these companies. But then to provide these inferences, you also need kind of model as well of your own.
Yeah.
Right? Or some kind of technology that you can expose.
Yeah.
Through API, basically.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with India is that like we have that kind of technology which been developed by Indian companies, right? But then at the end of the day, like there are quite a few of those technologies that are quite relevant, I would say. Like for example, we have GPT model or maybe cloud model. That kind of technology we don't have it yet. And even if we build it, at the end of the day, it will be hosted on either AWS or GCP, right? Because we don't have that kind of like infrastructure of our own. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, so see, couple of points on this, right? Like, so first you mentioned like about the models itself, foundation models, right? Like, which are like, what is the importance of all this, and all this in like basically in inference, basically for these foundation models, right? I honestly think we are targeting wrong if we are trying to build a foundation model. Obviously, some teams should keep on doing that, right? So like some teams from IITs, incubators, like should keep on doing that. But I don't think building a foundation model is a job for like private players in India, right? They will not be able to do it because it's a very, very like expensive affair to be building, right? Like in the first place. Like in US, it's a different dynamics. Like, so that's, I'll not talk about that much. But the thing is, I think even if like we are just like providers of already existing open source models, right? That's a huge thing in general. So a lot of good open source models have come up, like Mistral are there, like so Llama models are there, right? Like so there are a lot of DeepSeek models also are there, which are very good, right? Like so even if we are able to do that, right, it's going to be very, very, very good for us. I feel, because see, inference is not just about models, right? Like so inference comes down to basically, first of all, like just the capabilities of your inference APIs itself, right? Like so, okay, like whether are you going to give like chat completions, are you going to give streaming, are you going to give any agentic capabilities on top of it, are you going to give structured outputs and all that stuff, right? If you'll see at a global landscape level, right, like so a lot of these companies or a lot of projects which are like using or are working on like foundation models, right? So even let's forget about like OpenAI and all that stuff, right? Like so even the smaller startups which are there from West, right, which are building on top of like, okay, we have our own self-hosted models, right? How do we basically expose APIs on top of it, right? Like are actually using open source models who are actually developed by Indians, right? So if you have read some like some projects like Light LLM, right? Like so Light LLM was a very, very prominent like library, right? Like a few months back, and I think they are doing still very good right now. Like founders for the like both the writers for that library have been like Indians from start, like very young guys, right? Like and very smart guys, obviously. Right. Obviously, I'm not saying that okay, these are the guys who started. So like it is their only contribution. I'm not saying that. In open source, like a lot of people contribute to it, and which is the beauty of it, right? But the point is like they started it, right? And like people are using those libraries to actually like use in their production grade applications or development grade applications, right? Or prototyping and all things like that. So it's not like Indians can't do it. The problem is like okay, like you need some level of support, right? So what I'm saying is like okay, it doesn't matter right now whether we have our own foundation model or not. There's so many models out there like getting exposed every day, right? If we have a capability to just expose them, right, well, right, that's also a huge win for us, right? So first, as I said, one is basically just the API layer of the things, right? Which is basically just giving the capabilities, okay, on a model, what all can you do, right? Second is basically like the scalability of the aspect of it, right? That okay, how scalable can it be? Can I basically call the service 1,000 times a second, right, and get outputs properly, right, and in a reliable manner, right? So basically that is second aspect of it. Third is reliability, right? Like where 24/7, like basically 365 days of the year, like am I going to get like no problem with this service, right? Because if I'm going to use this API, right, like from this service, basically in my production, right, I can't rely on basically the part where okay, like it is just going to like fail for a second sometime, right? Like or like just doesn't give me any output at sometimes. So the third part is like the reliability, right? So it's I think before solving that foundation model problem, I think there's a lot of things which people have to figure out, like at serving problem itself, right? And that is going to see, even if some people, so right now a lot of companies are actually like incubator cells are actually working on the foundation models. Even if you are if you have a very good model which you will be able to figure out, right, and build, unless and until you don't solve inference, you're not going to anyways be like able to solve, like give it to people or even to government also. So that inference problem is a huge problem in general all over the world, not just us. Like it's a actively developing problem in AI space or LLM space anyways in the whole world, inference providing is like a very big problem in general. People have solved it, right, over the time, but it will need more work over the years, right? Even with OpenAI, with Anthropic, all these people are also having the similar problem. So just simple example I can tell you is just go and read the Reddit of Anthropic or Claude. Basically, there is a Reddit subreddit for like Claude. You'll see a lot of people actually complaining about like a couple of things like in last 2-3 weeks or 4 weeks, just about quality of like the outputs which are there, right? So now the beauty of Anthropic is like Anthropic says that okay, like doesn't matter which time of the day it is or like how much your consumption is, right? We will limit your consumption, but we will not degrade the quality of it, of our models basically, right? So things like these, right? Like, so why I'm highlighting this is because like they are able to get to that level because they have control over their inferences, right? That okay, we are going to rate limit, right? If we can't solve it, we are not going to give like underpowered or like basically a model which is going to be like less of a use case or useful for like people, right? Like so OpenAI handles it differently, right? Google handles it differently, right? Like so everybody is doing it their way, but the thing is they're solving they're facing that problem, right? Because it's a tough problem to solve, right? Like it's not easy to solve. So unless and until like basically we figure out that part of these three things, right? As I said, like API layer, right? Basically, if you remember, like initially when we used to use OpenAI's API, right? Like there were no structured outputs, right? Like okay, you used to send like queries, right? Okay, give me in this JSON format. Sometimes you used to get it, sometimes you didn't used to get it. Then they developed actually like all these capabilities on top of their APIs, right? Okay, structured outputs we will give you, right? Okay, we will give you like streaming, right? Because if you need streaming, we will give you, right? We will give you chat completion. Chat completion was the initial one, but like basically they improved it. Like then now Mistral says that okay, I will give you like agentic models, right? Like so. A lot of these models which we are seeing, Sonnet 4, Opus 4, Sonnet 3.5, Opus 4.5, right? Even like GPT 5, GPT 4.5 like models, all these are agentic models, right? So agentic model doesn't mean that okay, like the model has agentic capabilities. It means that there is a layer on top of it which has like agentic capabilities, right? So basically so basically they since they were solving these inference problems, this innovation like came up, right? So unless and until we don't do that, like we will not be able to get into these kinds of innovation problem solving. Another aspect of that, and since I know I'll probably limit it to a minute because I know I've been talking a lot about it and we can talk about it a lot, right? But another aspect of that is like context management solving, right? Which is a very big problem in general, right? So like LLM losing context like after basically like say 10 messages or 20 messages, right, has improved drastically in last 2 years, right? Like without that long-term memory, basically there is a strong chance that the LLM will hallucinate, right? Now hallucinations have dropped quite a bit, right, because of that like memory problem solving, right? But still there is a gap, right? Still we see that okay, like even with like a lot of apps which we use, there are like indexing which happens, there are like summarizations which happen which basically loses context, right? And then basically like causes problem. Simplest of example that you can see of that is like either in Copilot, GitHub Copilot or like Cursor, because like I'm saying this is because like code is one of those like type of like transcripts or documents which are very it's very important to actually maintain context in it, right? Because if you lose some context somewhere, like you are going to like the whole project is going to lose something, like and go into a completely different tangent, right? So yeah, like initially you mentioned about Cursor, right? The reason why we can't build Cursor or like an alternative to Cursor right now is like because of these kinds of problems. So fundamentally, like if you don't have these things, even if you see, right, Cursor is not trying to solve it, right? Cursor is using
Cursor is also a layer basically, and it is also using pre-made models only, ChatGPT, Claude, all those things. Correct. And the editor is VS Code only. So basically, it has combined two things together.
So, correct. So the beauty of that is like they have built a very good agentic layer at their coding interface level, right? Like so. But the thing is, like at the end of the day, they also can't solve this inference problem, right? Because that's a tough problem to solve, and I think. But the reason I'm saying is it's a tough, but because Anthropic was able to do it, right? And Anthropic could provide these kinds of API. products like Cursor can exist. Imagine if there was no provider like that, right? Or like a subpar product provider like that. We will not be able to see like products like Cursor, right? So I think India needs to get into that space, because like and we are not even talking about physical AI right now, right? Like, which is robots and all that stuff, right? Like, so just even like these AI products like need a lot of support from base level infrastructure to build consumer products. If we can't, like, we are probably going to just use and like be consumer of like Western like service. I'm not against it, but I all I'm saying is basically we should have our own services, right? Because that basically will help us innovate at a different scale.
Right.
So yeah. Again, no hard feelings for OpenAI and Anthropic. Like, guys, you are doing great. Like, I think for the whole world. Not against that, but I think it's always important to actually for every country to get there. I think China is doing it already, right? So China has a very good ecosystem for like AI development, right? So even simplest things like okay, like, so they have their own like apps for alternatives for Hugging Face, right? They have their own alternatives for like even like not low level, but like fundamental like libraries and like packages like PyTorch or like TensorFlow, right? They have alternatives for that in their ecosystem, right? Because they want to do that all natively, right? Like, they're building that already. So we are not even going there right now. So like, first of all, we need to solve these problems so that we can go till that core level eventually, right? And maybe we will not be able to go there ever, right? But
right. So what kind of AI products that you see India should build, or the companies in India should build? You already talked about few of them, like in terms of like accounting or maybe in terms of legal, right? We have lots of legal cases, and also so basically like most of the thing is manual work, so we can automate that through AI and all those things. Summarization and all those things can be possible in both of these fields. So any other thing that you would like to discuss on that?
Yeah, like, I think, see, like, a lot of people are building in legal tech actually in India, because as you discussed, right? Like, so there are a lot of like backlogs which is there in legal system. People are building on top of it, which is great, right? Like, there are few things which people who are building in healthcare also. A few people who are building in accounting also, like, okay, like, can we do taxation filing easier, right? Like, or simplified, or like things like that. So all that stuff is happening, and obviously these are important, right? I just would request for the people who have like compute power and like backing, right, to just build more challenging products, or at least like build things like, okay, which will enable other people to build challenging products, right? Like, so again, I think I spoke a lot about these inferences and like inference providers and all that stuff. I think that is one of those spaces where like people should start building. I know it will be challenging at start, but it's a high value, high output, high ROI kind of space, I would say. I think even if there are providers like OpenAI, like Anthropic and like Google, I think India needs such providers. And over the time, it's not going to be like on day one you are going to get like a lot of people working or like using your service, but over the time, I think that is something where we should head to. Similar to how we are right now working a little bit in like developing foundation models. I think developing that inference layer is one of those spaces which I would highly encourage anybody to work in. Other than that, there are so many small spaces here, like in finances itself, like which we can build on. But again, the same level of effort, right? Because selling will be tough for all these, because it's competitive market. If you do something in finance or fintech, right, it's so competitive at this moment. There's a lot of products which I'm seeing people who are building in AI assisted trading or AI assisted investing, right? Like that is one thing which is happening. I hope people do it in a legit manner.
You mean algo trading, right?
Not completely algo trading. Algo trading was like anyways a concept, right? Like people have been doing it for last 30 years, more than that, right? Like so that was there. But AI assisted trading in the general basically is like what does AI bring to table apart from algo, right? Like basically it's a dynamicity, right? Like so dynamicity and like just simplifying a problem to a human, right? Like and giving it to him in a manner where like he understands what it is, right? So if I tell somebody, if there is an algo trader who comes and like tells me some technical stuff, right, about like why some trade will work or some trade will not work, I'll probably not be able to like make sense of it, right? But if there is an LLM which simplifies it for me, right, like it becomes simple for me, right, like to consume. That is one type of solutions which can be there. Like second type of solutions is like okay, dynamicity of basically like taking decisions, right, like based on the numbers, right. So that helps even algo traders. So it's for somebody who can write algo, right, but doesn't know like okay, like how does that algo translates into like real profits. LLM can help you do that, right? So that is second aspect of it. So point is like there are a lot of these apps which are coming up now, which basically assist, but there are a lot of frauds also which are happening, right? Yeah. So consider like talking about frauds. I think fraud detection is one of those things which India can like work a lot on actually using AI. If we can build something with it, that will be huge because every month I read at least 5 to 10 cases where people were frauded. Because like okay, somebody called them, they gave some OTP and like something happened, right? Or like somebody sold them some shitty product or something like that, right? So this is a huge problem in India. I think if somebody can like, I don't know what solution somebody can build. Even it doesn't need to be a very very big solution. Small solutions like which can solve at least like one type of fraud detection and basically just flag it becomes like a huge thing for me. Simplest examples I'll say like even things like okay, there was these cases like where people, okay, delivery man used to come to people and like house and like okay, you must have got an OTP and like they used to just take the OTP like and just like do a transaction for the people, right? So these kinds of small things, right? Like so monitoring which is like okay, like what are the type of transactions which somebody is doing, right, at bank level, right, or even at like personal finance level if somebody can build that, right. A simplest example, and this is an idea which I probably will not build, but like I would like somebody to build, is like why can't we just generate personal finance summaries based on my Google Pay like summary, right, Google Pay transactions,
okay,
right? Why can't I just do that? Why can't I like just do an integration on my Google Pay app, right, which will just fetch okay, like in last 10 days whatever I have spent on like whatever I had spent in last 6 months, does it make sense for me to actually like spend on something, right? So just doing those fun.
Google can easily do that basically.
Google can do that, right? Like
yeah.
I don't know why
using Gemini.
Yeah, I don't know why they haven't done it, right? Like so, but the thing is like even let's say Paytm, right? If Paytm does that, right, or if somebody built it and like then sells it to Paytm, right, as a product, that becomes like a very good product, right? Like so. Just giving people assistance that okay, like okay, you bought a lot of like pizzas this month, right? It was not good for health, right? And like okay, you should probably hold back next month, right? And next time when you basically are going to buy like order another pizza, like basically it should just prompt you, right? Going a little like more into spec part of it, but point is like okay, personal finance I think is one of those spaces which I think in India people should build it, because Indians spend differently, right, as compared to West. We have a different mindset. Like I think there if we can just assist people, that will be good. Even investment planning, right, is one of those spaces is I think people like somebody can build. I'm not talking about stock or equity like trading or investing, but in general just about stuff like okay, just assisting people about like buying good and authentic gold or silver, right, or a mutual fund, right, makes a huge difference, right. Right now what happens is look okay, when we buy gold, right, we just go to a vendor or merchant, right, and we just okay, like what is the gold price right now, we don't do any kind of analysis over it, right. Okay, whether it is going to go up, we just have an impression that it is going to go up, right, which is usually the case, right. But
yeah, majority of the time that is what we think of. Yeah.
But we don't do any kind of analysis on gold, right? Like gold is one of those assets like which or investments which we always think that okay, it is going to go up, right? But there is no assistance towards okay, how long do you want to hold it, right? What is the purpose of buying it, right? Are you going to buy it for like as a jewelry for like wearing it, or are you going to just buy it for investment and things like that? So even like people don't have that kind of assistance, right? Like or like somebody who can tell them these things. Third biggest thing which I really am passionate about is just education. I think people in India, it's high time we solve education at a very cheap and like affordable rate. There's so many coachings, there are so many companies who have over the years tried to do ed tech, right, at a very like expensive like premium level stuff, which is like Byju's and like a lot of coaching centers which are there. Hats off to PW who did like bring the like fees down and like the economics, so the whole economics of like getting it in hands of people, like students, the education in hands of people, in students. I think that is a huge gap in India. I think if somebody can crack that, hats off to them, like in a manner where it really solves problem for school going students, college going students, and even working professionals, right? So I think we were also speaking about like STEM subjects, right? Like so if we want to really grow our skill sets, we need to be very good at STEM in next 5 or 10 years, and we need to be at least at the level, not at least, like we need to be at the level of China. China has a very good backing in STEM subjects. They have a very good population which are very well trained in STEM subjects. That translates into a lot of things, right? Like so basically it translates into craft, it translates into like basically precision, right? There is a reason why like iPhones and like MacBooks are like basically manufactured in like China, and we are talking about tech, but let's talk about other stuff also. So there was like when this tariff thing came up, right? Like so there were a lot of these like videos which were floated on like Twitter or like on TikTok. Okay, like this is Louis Vuitton bag, right? We manufacture it, you get it in Europe, right? So why I'm highlighting this is because that building that kind of bag requires a lot of craftsmanship, right? A very good craftsmanship.
Right.
That can only come if you have a good backing and good education system, like where people are very educated about like okay, like importance of making sure of precision, right? Making sure of accuracy, right, and all that stuff. So that needs to inculcate into like society in general, right? In India, that is not there, right? And unless until we don't like basically train our like population in STEM subjects and engineering, right? We'll probably not be able to like be a very good manufacturer over the years. So yeah, I think we are getting there, but yeah, like it will take some time. Yeah.
Right. And since we are talking about AI, so basically data is the really important part of it, right? Without data, AI is nothing. AI can't do anything. So like since AI's expansion has raised significant questions about data privacy, and so what do you think about like data privacy when it comes to like using AI? For example, like recently you might have seen there is a trend on Instagram that Nano Banana, which is a model image generation model by Gemini. So basically like many people are using that by uploading their images and all those things, and definitely it raises questions about data privacy as well. There are times where people can misuse this technology instead of taking advantage of it. So like what do you think of all of these cases, and how like people can make sure that their data remains private, or is it not even possible in today's world?
Yeah, so like I think we have briefly discussed about it, right? Like I have a very strong opinion on it, like that your data is not private. So whether you like it or not doesn't matter. Whether you think that when you think your data is like at most private, still your data is not private, right? Like so in today's world, so everything has been basically transformed into digital. So any kind of data which you do, even we are talking right now, my iPhone is listening, my MacBook is listening, right? Your phones and like cameras and like everything is listening, right? So like I don't
Right.
think if people think that okay there is a thing like privacy, they are delusional. Even like the most richest people in this world can't escape it at this point, right? So there is no point in actually like obviously we should worry about it. I'm not saying that we should not worry about it, right? But the thing is like we should worry about things like as you mentioned, right, which is like wrong use of those things, right? Like so like okay, generating images which are like in general bad for society, right? Like or like bad for some person or like some community or like some country, right? That should be basically definitely regulated, right? But coming to the part whether okay like whether somebody should upload their images or like on OpenAI or like Google's like this new model which is Nano Banana, I don't think like that is something which anybody can control at this point, because like you use Android, right? You have your Google Photos, like your all photos are actually synced anyways, right? Even if you like disable it, like it's probably going to end up somewhere some way or another, right? Either you are like Instagram or something, right? Like somewhere it is going to go, and whatever is not going to go on cloud is probably worthless, right? So the point
Right.
is you can't control that in general. The all you can control is basically the like just fair use, and the second is like making sure that okay it is not used for like some harmful use cases. I think if that is something which can be regulated, that is good. But regulations have to be managed by a lot of big people and like powerful people in government and like corporate and like in all this stuff. I don't think in India like in corporate people are even worried about it, to be honest. Outside India, like maybe there are few people who are worried for their interest, right? But like in India, I don't think people even C-level people, C-suite level people even worry about data or anything. They are just trying to right now like figure out the like survival of like company and all that stuff. So
Right.
I don't think that. So just about data privacy, my strong opinion is like none of nobody's data is like private right now. Whether somebody likes it or not doesn't matter.
Yeah, and in terms of like regulations also, like even if government creates some regulations regarding data privacy and anything, then like we can't guarantee basically that those regulations will be implemented at the ground level.
Yeah, India
Right.
in India, I think yeah. In
Not
India,
just in India, but like anywhere, I think.
Yeah,
in
so
general.
what has happened is like in terms of AI regulation, right? Like a lot of these companies, a lot of countries are actually building their own regulations. So US has a different regulation. Europe has or UN has different regulation right now. If you see,
Right.
UN has their own committee completely like regarding AI regulation. US has a different regulation. So like regarding even copyrighted data also, right? US has a different policy. UN has a different policy. India has a different policy, right? So everybody will do that over the time, and whether somebody follows it or not, that is another question. In US, it is like a highly derived and like derived by like capitalists, right? According to their like use cases. In India, thankfully so far at least, India also like it happens, but like in India so far at least like what I have observed is like government is pretty strict about like some of the regulations. We have seen that with SEBI. We have seen that with like recent banning of all these online gaming apps and all that stuff, right? Where like they take very seriously that okay, like if the regulations are not followed, like you will probably be like either you will end up in jail or you will probably lose your business. So it's a good thing that we are at least able to do that, right? Like because any kind of other regulation in India, like people don't follow it, but at least in this, like government is pretty strict about it. So yeah.
Right. And like I also say this, like when it comes to like data privacy, like if you are on the internet, then you have already sold your privacy for free,
Yeah.
basically. So if you are on WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook,
Yeah.
you keep on uploading your photos, you keep on sharing your location, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Google Map is also a best example where you keep on sharing your location where you are at. Even on Instagram you share it,
Yeah.
right? Even when we are uploading photos, right, they contain metadata.
Yeah.
And when you upload this directly, those metadata also get scanned by these applications, right? So like yeah, like there is no point of talking about data privacy as such,
Yeah.
because like your data is definitely public and companies have access to your data. That's the brutal reality. And like if you are on the internet, you can't do much about it.
Yeah, you can't. Like at this point, it's like part of life. People should
Right.
really stop worrying about it. At least like normal citizens should stop worrying about it. Like I don't think like they need to worry about all that stuff at all.
Yeah, but yeah, data should not be misused. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But apart from that, yeah, like there is no point of data privacy.
Yeah. No, regulation should be there. Your point is right. The thing is only like can't control it at this point. Like somewhere or another, it is going to end up somewhere. Like
Yeah.
it is going to end up somewhere. So, yeah.
And because of like generative AI, it has become quite difficult, right? Because
Yeah.
anyone can create anything, and you are not even aware of that. So
Yeah.
that is also like
Yeah.
really concerning.
Yeah, there are a lot of vulnerabilities also which are happening. Like people are doing a lot of products which are like not completely compliant, right? Like maybe just initial prototyping things and like I haven't seen an example of it, so I'll not probably speculate about it. But there is a strong chance like that. Okay, like if people are just going to keep on building stuff, just by vibe coding or like not giving like security as a important consideration, it's probably going to like cause problem. But again, that's a different discussion. I'll have to think about it more. But yeah.
Okay.
But I think we are like at that point where like right now we can't think about privacy too much, right? I think it's more important right now to do innovation at this point, and then all these regulations and everything can be figured out over the time. I think regulations will just limit everybody. That has been challenge for US also. So if you see like in last 1 year, there is a lot of these talks from OpenAI, specifically like Sam Altman, about like regulations are going to kill innovation for us. Before Trump got elected, like he was a very active voice about it, that you are putting all these like regulations on copyrighted content, but like it is going to just like limit us. And if we are not doing it, what do you think? Like China is not doing it. Is China not scraping our content? It is, right? Like so his point was that. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it for our episode 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Finally
I
kuch-
spoke a lot of things, but like yeah, I think Sahil and I have keep on having these discussions. Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I think we can conclude. This was a good discussion. I think what I'll just I think we have discussed this, but we would like everybody's feedback more so that we can make this podcasts better over the time. Also, like we would like to have more people on this podcast over the time, so that like they can share their own opinions, and yeah, things like that. So yeah, nothing from my side at the end. But yeah, we'll have more of these.
So thank you guys for watching this podcast, and if you really like it, please subscribe to the DeepLoop channel, and please provide your suggestions in the comments. And if you think any improvement is needed from our side, then please do comment that as well. We'll try to read as many comments as possible. So thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. See ya.